Good afternoon. The British Business Podcast Series is here in Cornwall and we're at the iconic Headland Hotel. I'm delighted to welcome Malcolm Bell MBE from Visit Cornwall, and we're in for a real journey in terms of background, history, and you're in for some insights into some real powerful stories. So welcome, Malcolm, and thank you so much for coming this afternoon.
Glad to be here. More than happy.
So what do you do? What is it
What do I do? Well, Visit Cornwall is now a standalone private sector community interest company. So my job really is, if I sort of sum up Cornish Tourism in one sort of easy sentence, there's about 40% of our visitors come every year. There's one that come a lot more than that. There's about 40% that come every 2 to 5 years, and that leaves 20% that are either lapsed or have never been to Cornwall. Okay. So if you think of the old sales funnel, my job in Visit Cornwall on behalf of the Headland Hotel and lots of others is to get that 20% in, that top up. They're very good at maintaining and holding their own visitors and working the loyal visitors. But obviously, like in any business, if you don't top up with new customers, then actually you stagnate and drift backwards. So my job is to keep Cornwall loud up there, make it incredibly popular, which has been quite a journey over 30 years in different guises, and keep those extra new visitors coming in to deliver 20% of employment in Cornwall, is down to the visitor economy and lots of food and drink benefits as well as retail.
And how long have you been doing that for?
Well, I've been doing this job about 10 years in Cornwall, but I did 12 years at the regional level, which also covered Cornwall. So I've just been moving west to come back home, really.
And who owns Visit Cornwall? What is it, a public organisation?
No, it's a community interest company. So basically it's a private sector company, but not for profit. Okay. So anything we make, we plough back into the development of it, So, obviously in the summer Cornwall's popular, but obviously our priority is not only getting new customers in, we're getting in them at a time of year when the businesses struggle to get them, which is what they call the off-season in the winter.
So you're measured based on those parameters that you've just been given?
Absolutely.
Wow. And do you have a team of people?
Yeah, we have a team. We're quite small. We're about 9, but then we've got a load of contractors on various aspects of marketing and IT and the rest of it. And we're based down in Truro, but obviously we cover the whole beautiful part of Cornwall. And I think it's hard to people to realise, but in 1995, and I'm old as you can tell, so I know that, Cornwall was actually put in a group called the Tourism Development Action Programme by the National Tourist Board, which basically was sort of bottom of 4th division. So Cornwall was alongside of Skegness, Bognor Regis and Blackpool as areas for development. And for the last, they haven't run the awards for 2 years, but for 10 out of 11 years that the British Tourist Awards ran, Cornwall got top prize. And we only got second when we dropped. So, but we got it back the next year. So, the biggest thing is going from being in the bottom of the 4th division to being a premiership at the top.
And my guess is that you've been around to see all of that. Yeah,
been contributing on and off for that. And the real thing for some people who might be listening is, obviously this part of the world used to be called the West Country.
Oh, really?
Everything like the West Country, and that's sort of Devon, Cornwall, Somerset, Dorset, really. So Cornwall's just part of a brand called the West Country. And then probably about 15 years more ago, it was just Devon and Cornwall. They were seen as the same thing. But now I'm proud to say that Cornwall actually is a premier brand above Devon. And Devon's a great product, don't get me wrong. I often say the difference is it's a bit like Cornwall is the Waitrose and Devon is the Sainsbury's. Both good places, but one's got that cachet. And if you are an extra 50 to 100 miles further on down the road, you have to have that image that makes people want to go that little bit of distance. Because one of our greatest competitors, Devon, love them like we do. But, it's the closest place to heaven, but heaven is obviously Cornwall. But you have to get them to go that extra few miles. And I'm delighted to say now that we've achieved that.
Why did they pick you?
It's a strange background. If I give you a potted history of my career,
please, I would be delighted.
I was born in Cornwall, which, as my grandfather used to say, if you're born in Cornwall, God's had a funny sense of humour, and you better be crafty. Because although it's God's chosen land, He's also got a sense of humour. And I was good at maths, so I went off and did a nuclear physics degree. You wouldn't have me as you can tell from my flippancy, you wouldn't have me anywhere nuclear weapons, let alone a nuclear thing. And when I left college, I worked in a computing centre, and then actually ended up joining the civil service to set up IT centres, because you had a physics degree. They thought you knew what a computer was. And I did that up in the northwest for about 5 years, and then they suddenly decided that I should feature on hotel and catering training, because the civil service, like the army almost, suddenly starts chucking you around in odd places. So after a year of doing it up there, I thought, what the hell am I doing in the north, doing this when I've come from Cornwall? So I decided I wouldn't be able to get back to Cornwall, so I applied for a job in Taunton. And it's a bit like Brer Rabbit. When they gave me the job in Taunton, they said, why here? Why don't you take the job in Cornwall? I went, okay, if you insist. Because sometimes organisations, if
you
they
really
know
are crafty, aren't you?
Yeah, they know what you really want. Sometimes there's people that won't let you have it. And then I worked in training. And the one thing I remember, going back in the 1980s now, it was very clear that it was said to me, is you will probably have 5 or 6 different jobs. And you'll probably work in 2 or 3, because it's very progressive at that time, in Manpower Services Commission. And you'll probably work for 3 or 4 different organisations. Now, that sounds totally normal now. But back then, it was like, you've signed up for life if you got in a company or a job. So it taught me then that sort of opportunity is that, life goes along the road and there's a fork in the road, and it's your decision whether you take it or even if you take a U-turn or whatever. So I then went from training for a bit, and there was a big splurge, and Margaret Thatcher made unemployment popular. So I ran unemployment programs, and then went back into education in a different agency to do with further education. Again, back to hotel catering and stuff like that. And I had the best job title, hideous job title in the universe, which was the Southwest Funding Manager for Work-Related Non-Advanced Further Education. How about that for a job title?
But only in the public sector.
Yeah. But my job was to actually get colleges who in the past had just been given money. So my job was to actually make sure that, first of all, they were delivering a lot more what industry wanted. So we had to bring in industry leaders and training officers to make sure it was happening, because up until then it was what the college decided. But also then was to get them to start doing management information, because colleges just had historical budgets. Hysterical almost. And then we had to bring in budgets and marketing strategies for the colleges. And it was all in preparation for where they are now, where they're all independent businesses. But you had to go from something that was completely spoon-fed to something independent. And then I took another change, because they created these things called training enterprise councils. So I was a bit bored with that. It's only so many years you can work in further education. It is a super tanker. They're great guys, but it does take a long time to change. And they set up these things called training enterprise councils, and I just thought, this is interesting, because it's Devon and Cornwall, because I was quite ambitious but didn't want necessarily to go across anywhere else in the country. And ironically, I got an offer of a job in Canada, so that stopped me going to Canada. And I went in there as their new developments person, and then ended up as did a management degree and some economics, and ended up as Director of Economic Development for Devon and Cornwall. And that's why I know about 1995, because that's when it was in a bit of a state tourism. Okay. And I wrote a strategy on the future of tourism. And then the job for the Regional Tourist Board came up, and that's when I got into tourism. And then 10 years later, moved back to Cornwall to do it.
Wow.
But it is, I think, a lesson for everybody listening is you've got to keep your eyes open to what's going on, what opportunities might come, also put yourself in uncomfortable positions. It's easy to sit back in a job and be comfortable. But, I do a lot of TV and radio and stuff like that, and people go, you're very good at it. And I say, but I still remember in 1984, the first time I spoke in public at Crantock Village Hall, not far from here, with 8 councillors really bricking it as a young man. But you've got to push yourself in those uncomfortable zones. And I encourage people to do more radio and TV with me by saying, this is a good one for you. They're going to be kind. Because the one day they will not be kind, and you need some nice interviews under your belt first. Brilliant. So just encourage people to do it.
Wow. And are you enjoying the role that you have?
I do enjoy the role now, because it's almost a free format role of what we do. In the past, I've always sort of struggled. And that's why, in the past, I find it quite funny, because I was saying this to somebody the other day, is when I was a young man, I used to struggle against the old so-and-sos who kept blocking me, and now, unfortunately, I seem to be struggling against young people who keep trying to block me. Because because I want to keep pushing that boundary, as my grandfather taught me, is as you get older, he's a very wise man, as you get older, never give in to the I know what I want what I know.
Okay.
Always keep your eyes open. There's a different way of doing it. There's new opportunities. So, we had to drive, when I took over Visit Cornwall, the Visit Cornwall website was nowhere, literally nowhere. There were private sector websites, everything was all over it, whereas now it's probably the 5th biggest tourism website in the country. And to give you an idea, you've got Visit Britain, you've got Visit London, you've got Visit Scotland, you've got Wales, and we're close to Wales. So, you just suddenly spotted the world was going digital, let's move into it. So, although some of the people I've worked with probably get frustrated because this is a door called change, I'm rushing towards it. And the one thing I've learned is there's sort of 3 sorts of people. There's those that rush towards the door called change, there's those that run away from it, and the other ones stand there looking a bit worried. So you've got to leave the ones who don't want to do change behind, but you've got to encourage the other ones to come along with you. How
important is a sense of humour to you in what you do? Because you have an amazing sense of humour.
You can get away with blue murder. That's my grandfather again. You can get away with blue murder if you've got a bit of sense of humour. Yeah, and it's brevity, and the funny thing is, I used to worry about being a bit of a comedian or, court jester, as one of my chief execs once called me, but he kept promoting me, so it was all right. Because I found that you can use it with anybody. I've been in this room with the Prime Minister and still joked, and they like it because it brings I've always said to everybody, I take the job incredibly seriously. I don't take myself seriously.
Yeah, sure.
And there's nothing wrong with having a laugh along the way.
Sure. Wow. I think a lot of our viewers and listeners today, they're coming along to this podcast because they're wanting an insight into business. Yeah. And I think you're one of the first people to have talked about humour in business, which is actually, I think, quite essential, because not only is business tough sometimes, you've got to have the ability to laugh at yourself, at the situation, at what's going on around you. Yeah. It's quite important, isn't it?
It is. And it also takes the stress levels down for everybody else,
Okay.
And I think it can actually release creative thinking.
Wow.
So I think it's incredibly important. And it opens doors.
Wow.
Gets you invited places. Maybe they think you're a court jester, but is my grandfather used to say, and a guy called John Viv I worked with, who was proper Cornish, is, the old TV programme Columbo?
Oh, yeah.
And you remember he always used to play being a bit thicker than he was?
Always.
Well, if you're a bit of the humorist, what you do is you get into places where you can learn a lot and you pick up that and then you can use it.
Sure.
Whereas if you go there sort of not frozen, not trying to be. And the other thing I've learned in life, you got to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you want to be happy and successful, you can't be what you're not.
Sure.
So if it's not fitting in where you are, you've got to find somewhere it does fit in. And as I said, probably me joking in a nuclear power station, if I pursued that career and being a bit of a practical joker, probably wouldn't have gone down well.
Wow.
But in tourism, which is about being fun and happy, it's a strength. But I do think humour does play a part in everything you do. And self-deprivating humour, really.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we said beforehand is for about a year I used to fund, strange jobs I've had, fund the careers service. And they got really upset when I described a career as a retrospective term to justify what you've been doing. Because in Britain, unlike Germany and other countries, people do big jumps from one skill set to another skill set. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we got to equip people to understand that. Days of sort of saying, I'm here for the next 40 years. It's not possible now. It's one of the reasons I got out of the civil service, because I got shifted to another office, and this guy called me up to his office. He had the big desk and 2 empty trays, and I forget it. A guy called Ken, I won't use his second name. He's probably dead now anyway. But and he said, if you work hard in 20 years, you can have a desk, you can have an office like this. And I thought, bloody hell, I've got to get out of this organisation.
Because you didn't want that desk. So, interestingly, you talk a lot about humour. You're not talking about the specifics of the job or the business. Yeah. So when the pandemic came and you were doing what you were doing, almost, I guess, second nature routine, because you've almost lived and breathed this.
Yeah.
What happened?
What happened was, and it didn't go down too well with some of my board members, is I was watching the news on Sky of when the pictures of the Italy problem was.
Yes.
And I think the official lockdown happened on about a Tuesday.
Yes.
Well, I made a decision on the Thursday that we should send out a message that don't come to Cornwall for a while.
Okay.
Because I was picking up, because in tourism, not only do you need to provide a great service for the visitor, and we've had some challenges the last 2 years, but you've also got to keep the local people on side.
Yeah, sure.
So when I'm doing TV interviews or when I'm thinking, I tend to think, am I thinking for the people of Cornwall? Am I thinking for the businesses? Am I thinking for the visitor? And
so there's three groups there.
Yeah, and the combination was, well, actually, the visitors probably don't really want to come anyway. The businesses are starting to panic. And the public certainly don't want a load of people coming down, you know. So I made that call and went out with it. Made the call to decide to do it without talking to the board, because sometimes there's a time to act and then think and then act, or think quickly and say somebody's going to block this.
That's really interesting. Can you say that again? There's a time to think
and then act, and there's a time to act and then do the thinking. Now, obviously, there's always a bit of thinking.
Of course.
But in a time of crisis, you've got to be able to act. So we did that. We immediately commissioned a video firm to do a new video to go on the front screen of saying, don't come now, but we'll welcome you back.
Okay.
With a person.
So the nicest possible way.
Nicest possible way. We love you, but please don't come. But we'll be welcoming you back. So that's the message to the thing. The message to the population was, we're telling people not to come.
And I think I heard a number of 313,000 visitors to the website.
Yeah.
So this was getting huge numbers of people.
That was Facebook.
Wow.
And we get 5 million visitors to the website, but that immediately got me on Breakfast TV.
Really?
Because why is the tourist board saying that? But you were then able to talk to the rest of the country that we weren't being nasty.
Sure.
You know, this is, you know, we've looked at it. We've only got one hospital. We've seen what's happening in Italy. You know, the population here is, you know, we're doing the right thing for you as well as.
Then
And I think it's very important that you get that narrative of, you know, visualizing a person you're talking to.
Yeah, sure. Wow.
And then we got straight back in immediately. Actually, we'd already set up the group. Actually, we set up a task group, representatives across the industry, about 12. Because we met, and then we never met again because it was all online. Those guys we met every morning, online every morning on Zoom, and in the afternoon. And that went on all the way through the first lot of it. And
every day, twice a day. They would come back with, we need like the furlough. This, you know, they were giving me the information that was causing them problems as businesses. Like, what the hell do we do? We're going to go bust. We got cash flow. We got this. So you're able to feed that straight up the line. Sure.
So you just became the conduit for their knowledge and their information.
That must have been hugely. Did it weigh heavy? Because that's a hugely pivotal role for you.
It did, but luckily, says he, I've been through foot and mouth in the past, another one. So it was the biggest one ever, but you knew that people needed a conduit. And then you could also be a conduit to the media about some of these things, and the same through to MPs.
So you had experience.
Yeah,
already.
But you've got to filter out, in this sort of role, you have to filter out the rabid panic, if you get me, not being funny. You have to get the essence of what is true, you know? So more recently about the energy crisis, people relate to a story.
Yeah.
So I'd said there's a story of a self-catering complex where they got big mortgages. They got 8 cottages. The 2 people running it employ 4 people, but it's mainly a husband and wife team. You know, they make, as a husband and wife team, about 80 grand a year on a good year, 60 grand on a bad year between them, which is, you know, down here is not too bad. If the energy price cap doesn't come in on businesses, they would lose £5,000 a year. So in other words, they're just wiped out. Now, those sort of examples get through to politicians and policymakers better than big numbers.
Yes.
Because you can empathise with somebody who's got a nice little business, making reasonable money, working hard, and then all of a sudden that goes. And that's what we were giving up, a good, solid, evidence-based examples of why, you know, like the furlough, leading into that. If there isn't a furlough, because furlough was over in Germany, everywhere else first. If we don't get that, these people are going to be laid off in spades.
Yep, immediately.
Yeah. And we could get numbers on that because we put Survey Monkeys out and got data. So
you changed the front page of the website. You said to people, almost like a holding page, a holding statement.
Yeah.
When did you know? When did you make a decision that things needed to change to now attack the market to sort of come back?
Well, the funny thing is, in 2020 and 2021, I can't remember which year we're in.
Yeah, sure.
Is because everybody couldn't go abroad. 50% of the British population go abroad on holiday every year.
Yep.
So that was a massive market.
Yep.
So actually, we changed the tactic of don't come unless you book.
Okay.
So ironically, from a market, it was twisting it again.
Well, it was, but very subtly.
Yeah, you got to book, and you got to make sure you got to book your hotel and book your restaurants ahead of time, book your attractions ahead of time, which worked really well. It's obviously now back to normal again. But,
Sure.
But when you know you're the top destination, you know you're going to be the one that's maximum benefits from that. So that was that sort of change of things, and also getting the messaging across about please, keep outside, keep your distance, rule of 6, all those things that went on.
And how much research and how much talking to the business community were you doing at that time to make sure that they were on board with that?
Well, I think that was the amazing thing with the technology, because we were doing a webinar twice a week where we were having 200, 300, 400 businesses on.
Wow.
And people were asking questions, and I could answer 2/3 of them. The other third, I made the answers up because nobody could get them from anywhere. So they were saying, what do I do about cushions? What do I do? And so I was just using common sense, because people in those situations want answers.
Yeah, sure.
And there's probably several right answers, but so I wasn't being flippant on some of it.
No.
But when people want an answer, they want an answer. And they were trying to open up, and they weren't quite sure what they could do. So we were working very closely with public protection and health, but you knew the logic behind.
Sure.
You could work on a logic and just give them the answer. So we ran those twice a week all the way through, giving them the latest information, because people just wanted reassurance. First reassurance that we're going to go bust, and then what do I need to do to open up?
And so 21, 22, that's really just sort of gone, and now we're now back to normal. In fact, would you say you're booming?
We're actually probably about back to where we were in 2019, because of actually the cost of living squeeze. We would have been booming a bit more, but also spare capacity's gone. Last year we had temporary campsites, a lot more spare capacity to take. So we're more comfortable because the staffing issues. There's literally. Last year, particularly 21, it was an unpleasant time at places with the sheer volume of people. Now, luckily, our customers, because we do a lot of research and our visitor survey, we did satisfy the customer. Cornwall did deliver. But I think they were tolerating it a bit like, if you go into a supermarket 2 days before Christmas, you don't really complain it's busy. There's a sort of fact in your head of it's inevitable. Bound to be. So this year's been a bit better in terms of being more tolerable in terms of it, because our long-term strategy is obviously to roughly hold ourselves in the summer. We don't get too much smaller, but hold it as it is, but grow the out of the main 20 weeks. Get 20 peak weeks roughly, or shoulder and peak. That leaves 32 weeks we've got to get business. Now, with people working from home, there's opportunities for them to come down to Cornwall. They'll call it a Walladay or a workation. So you might work 20% of your time.
Yep.
And there's great broadband down here, fastest broadband in Britain, thanks to the structural funds of the European Commission a few years ago. Then you get people like the older market with multi-generational helping out there. So you've got to look to say, well, we'll take the kids away for a bit if they're under 5 and give you a break. So there's lots of little markets for the other 32 weeks of the year we're looking at.
So if that all goes well, how much of the great resignation of this country in terms of team members being hard to find is going to impact on those numbers?
The big issue for us has been labour, not as much as the cities. And Brexit, not as much as, it'll probably be 20% in a hotel like this, 20-30%, but overall it's less than 10%. But the challenge was accommodation. Because lots of the rented accommodation went over to Airbnb. So, we could attract some, it was difficult in labour anyway, but the labour, when you could get it, there was nowhere for them to stay. Especially in the last 2 boom years, it's now settling down a bit
because
more.
most of those people have put their bedrooms, their houses up for Airbnb. So the people that would have worked and stayed there and nowhere to go.
So then we shared innovations within the sector. So, for instance, some people brought in caravans and pods for people to sleep in. The other one that some people did was a couple of hotels. They shut their restaurants and kitchens down for 2 days so that the staff they've got would stay. But then they brought street food vendors onto site and made it a bit of a party night with music. The other one that people did that we shared was what they call a resort voucher. Like if you're staying in a hotel like this for 4 days, they make you and clean your room every day. So people are offered £20 to spend if they didn't want their room service for a day. And it's surprising how many people will take that up.
That's very innovative, isn't it?
So our job then was working again with this group and putting the feelers out and saying, if you've come up with ideas, let us have them because we can share them with others.
That's really good, isn't
Yeah.
it? And again, the use of the internet has been huge, isn't it? To get those ideas across and communicate with the communities.
And although it's nothing like the same COVID in foot and mouth, I was there in foot and mouth and we had 5.5 million holiday brochures to go out because you forget, even though it's 2001, the internet really wasn't there. Wow. Whereas this time, not only were we able to switch on the internet, you had Zoom. Yep. You had all that, I mean, it sounds funny, and I'm a great one for thinking in my own life, sometimes I have good, bad luck. But if COVID was going to come along, thank God it came along where we had the internet and Zoom and everything else. Because if you'd gone back 20 years and told people to stay indoors, they couldn't have done it.
No, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So unbelievably, we've just gone through 26 minutes of talking, and that's just gone like wildfire. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we've not covered? Is there anything that you'd like to push or market in terms of what's happening in the future?
I think the one thing I'd say is, and it's probably more for everybody listening, is you've got to be passionate about what you do. You're stuck doing it working wise, and I believe there's a wonderful thing. It's Tom Hanks' advice as the actor, is as you get older, as I am, is retirement is about doing more of what you love and hardly anything of what you hate and very little of what you don't like. So for people going through their career, you've then got to think you're going to a legacy mode and you go into a time of life where and I do enjoy my job and there's parts
I can
of it.
tell, the smiles
And I'm 67 next month,
Wow.
I should have retired. But do the things you're passionate about, but you build a career, but then go to that position where you can end up working where you're still passionate about what you do and not just sitting at the time until you retire.
And is there any thoughts of that word?
Well, I'm stepping down from day-to-day operation at the end of December, but I'm then carrying on with the aspects of the job I love, which is what the board have asked me to do.
So you've got that purpose,
Yeah.
you've still got that drive, desire, passion.
That's right. Yeah, inside I'm still 25. It's only when I look in the mirror.
And who's to argue that the passion, drive and desire that you have would be better at 25?
Yeah.
Because you've got all that experience to boot.
Yeah, and you can get away with it when you're my age. I've had people, and they go, well, I'm not looking for any, I don't even need a gong. I've got one, but I'm not looking for a career. I do it because of the passion I'm interested. So you become a lot more powerful character because you haven't got this thing about I've got to pay the mortgage, you've got to look after the kids, and all of that.
Malcolm Bell, MBE, thank you so much for coming in today. I think our viewers and listeners are going to really enjoy what you've had to say today. So until next time.